All right. Hello and welcome to Altacast number 17, I think it is. Today I'm joined with Serena,
Hi.
and today we're talking about art. We're going to talk about the art of A Township Tale.
Okay.
So we're going to be covering some topics like a bit about our pipeline, the kind of history of the art of the game so far, in terms of what you can currently see, how we got to that point, and as well some of the future of the art, things that we're still eager to do and that we need to invest more time in. Before I get started and go into that tangent, we'll go through what people are doing. This is the first regular Altacast since the forest came out, so everyone's been pretty busy. Primarily, like the programming team, in particular, has been pretty hands-on. At least Timo and Joel have just releasing updates constantly and fixing stuff. So I believe Joel and Timo are still kind of doing that at the moment. They're evaluating some of the performance changes that have happened to the server since the forest came out, which we anticipated. We saw some wins last week with Joel fixing up some issues. I don't know the details. I should have asked him more about it. But yeah, on my end, I'm kind of, now that we've got a bit more time, I'm experimenting a bit on the art side of things, which is why I figured this was pretty topical, because I'll have an easy time talking about it. So I'm, you might see some, like maybe if I get all the stuff I'm doing improved, you might see some changes to the terrain, textures that we use, how we dress up the world a bit. Hopefully balancing out, making things looking prettier and as well as making them look a bit more performant. Serena and Victor, the brief rundown of it is working on those optimization technologies, right? So one of the things they were kind of working on is landmarks, so that you can still see far key features away. Like if you think of the big Simba mountain that's behind town, people will be able to see that from further away. But we're obviously going to be rendering a more optimized version of it.
Yeah, and like the tower and stuff, just to give you some like context for where you are in the world, and so you can point to something in the distance and be like, oh, I want to
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah, I think people have noticed that if you go up the tower or something like that, you see the fact that most of town is missing or things like that. So hopefully that won't be the case once we establish this system. And that means that we can load real things a bit less, like a bit from less close up. Yeah. Trying to figure out how I was wording that.
You're just saying it'll be slightly more performant when you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because the stuff in the distance will be really, really, really cheap.
Yeah. Tiarna and Sebastian are currently working on some more cosmetic things. They're working on a bit of a new-ish system that isn't necessarily like it's not a new feature in the cosmetics like customization room. Just so I make that clear, but it's something that ties in with cosmetics, and I think we'll probably give it its own Altacast to talk about it. Maybe Timo and the two of them will be able to join us for that, because Timo is kind of working with them to spearhead this new thing. You'll see more news about it coming soonish.
Can we say that it's specific to supporters?
I guess, yeah, we can say that. It's fine. Yeah, okay. It's going to be something that I think for people who are supporters or interested in being supporters, it'll be a good thing for them. And I think it's, I guess it's in a way of us thanking all the people who've supported us so far. Is kind of what they're doing. As well as supporting people who might feature us later. That should be enough hints, I think, for what they're doing. People can figure it out.
I'm constantly scared of like saying too much on these things.
Yeah, I think there's not too much like truly secret besides the things that we think are exciting or that we think are risky. Yeah. And there's not too much of that going on. So there's God, we have so many people now. I've got to think things through.
Oh, we have a new intern as well.
Yep.
People would have noticed in Discord, and her name is Ivy, and she has been here for 2 weeks now. So
Yeah.
it's going well.
Yeah, so we have 3 people working in the cosmetics department now.
So that's like, honestly, like if you add it all up, we've got like 5 artists.
Yeah, 5 artists. We finally have more artists than we have
I know, it's really strange, right?
Or I guess with Sebastian Turner we had 4, but now it feels more real because now there's like, we had an art meeting the other day, kind of, and just having all the artists together was kind of cool.
Fun.
Yeah. The Soul is kind of currently, he just finished implementing Live to A Township Tale, so last update was a lot of it was his doing. Now he knows more streamers and stuff like that than we do, and he's got more experience with like avatar systems and like, you know, that kind of world of like Twitch related things. So we had him work on that because we're kind of too busy to work on a feature that wasn't just about fixing the forest. Beyond what I'm kind of working on with like textures and spending a bit more R&D time working on things. So yeah, there's some other aspects of spectator modes that I'd like for Sol to attempt at some point, because it was really cool. Like he showed us a bunch of videos of him playing through. Did you see those, Serena? You didn't see them?
Out of the loop. I haven't seen. I think I saw one of them where he had like an avatar.
Yeah.
Running around. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a video where he had him and his avatar walking around in the Township Tale world and seeing like the layering and stuff like that of our in-game items versus his avatar was cool. And he also did like a real life version of it, like a live person version, which was cool as well.
Okay, I saw the screenshot of that.
Yeah. Like what I'd like to see from that is like that kind of functionality coming out from the screenshot camera, so that you know, if you don't have Live, or if you don't want to use your avatar, or if you don't want to show your person in real life, you can still just use your Township character. And I think for us, at least, doing the gameplay videos, it could be useful.
Just like have a camera that like follows you around.
Yeah, like a follow cam. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Tima is still doing business stuff. Timo's doing server stuff with Joel. I don't know the specifics. I don't know how worthwhile they are to describe, but they're doing stuff to improve the performance hits that we've gotten since the forest, essentially. And he's also going to be, you know, kind of helping out with this landmark stuff, I think, a bit as well. And then that's about it. Oh, yeah, I guess I covered kind of what Joel does. So that's the whole team. This is going to become such a long segment as we keep growing.
Yeah, but there's like 100 people working for all of it.
Yeah, this is going to be like a pre-Altacast. Altacast that's just a list of what everyone's doing. 100 people list.
You're going to forget everyone's names.
All right, so this is the... let's get on to the main section now when we talk about art. So for those of you who don't know, Serena and I are kind of the 2 first artists for A Township Tale. Serena is more of a technical artist, or at least that's what we call her. She still does, I think, some pretty like creative artist type stuff, at least when it came to cosmetics and things like that. I don't know, how would you describe my role as an artist?
I don't know, because you're like the first. You were like the first one on board, and like very like I always describe you as like the lead designer, because it's very, very true. Like Township Tale is like your design baby in a way.
Yeah.
And then like you like when I came on board, you did have already like some custom art for Township Tale.
Yeah, we did.
Because if you guys remember the PAX build,
the bag, I guess.
That wasn't any. I think you made like the bag and the gloves.
Yeah, I made the bag, the gloves. Like I made the character meshes technically, but those were like hack jobs, like the shirt and the head. But beyond that, like I had a bit of concept art, I think, at the time, and we were just kind of starting to make custom art. Like we were starting to bring up to like build the overworld with like the brown houses.
Yeah. I remember when I came on, I think you had trees as well, which were just, they're not in there anymore. They're
No.
not the same trees.
No.
I
Yeah.
think the bag is probably the closest thing we have to, but even that got overhauled.
Yeah, that got overhauled with crafting. There's no assets that still exist from that time.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the coin is pretty authentic.
No, the coin got changed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the coin used to have that little oval in the center.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
and then we changed it to have the skull and the pickaxe. So
Yeah.
I think there's no art still that lives from that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So no,
I
not
don't know
even.
how to describe us.
Like maybe the teleport pointer might be the oldest thing.
Yeah. Okay. I have. Oh no, I didn't change it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
I changed some of it, but not all of it.
So
the art is the same.
yeah. And so now we've kind of been iterating a bit on the art. You know, I think in the game's been out since the start of 2018, so it's been 2.5 years that the game's been out and people have been playing it. We've tried to evolve the art slowly. Like you've seen some of the new trees that we made. Some textural changes happen every now and then. But as we continue to build the world, we come across kind of like these. We kind of feel like some of the stuff we're using is a bit too old. Some of the assets aren't as optimized as they should be. They don't look good enough. We feel a bit queasy about using them over and over again.
Or like sometimes it'll be an item that we made before we had like any crafting.
Yeah.
And then we have to like redo it to fit into that system, like the bag.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can make it look like it's made out of the same leather and metal as everything else. So there's things like that.
Yeah.
And then we had like we never had optimized meshes as well. So there's like a process of kind of going through and making sure everything has different levels of detail, like low poly versions. And yeah, using as little custom textures as possible.
Yeah. So there's a and now, you know, as we're going through more of 2020 and with the forest update, with how we've kind of expanded things out, we kind of want things to look even better than they do, and as well as run better. So there's kind of like a balance that we have to reach between how we choose to dress up like the side of a cliff or the side of a hill as you're walking down a path. So part of what I've been doing is experimenting a bit with changing up the textures that we use for the terrain. You know, previously we used for anybody who's an art like a 3D artist will probably know some of these software, but I used to use a program called ZBrush in combination with Maya, which is a 3D modeling software. ZBrush, you can sculpt things, and I would sculpt out textures and then kind of bake them to like a tiling texture so that they can be used for the terrain across places. That bit was a bit slow. It's a bit of an outdated method these days with how to do stuff, and because I think Joel and Timo always joke about this, but I talk about how hiring an artist is literally down to how you move your arm. That defines like the different styles of people, and if we can remove that component that makes everyone's art look a bit different, so we can get a more consistent look, then it's better. So using ZBrush to do sculptures took time. Iterating was slow, and then we could and then it was just hard to feel like changing, because it's like, oh, I spent like a day making this texture, I don't want to change it. So now I've used a program that Serena's had more experience with than I did before, which is Substance Designer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I actually haven't used it for the purpose that you're talking about. So at the moment, Boramy's making tileable terrain textures that he can splat all over the world. I actually started using it for cosmetics.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a less conventional way to use it, because most people sort of know of it because of its tileables.
Yeah.
And Boramy's style is very like painterly style. He comes from a very like traditional art background, and I think I preferred the technical,
Yeah.
you know, the technical tools that are provided to you by substance designer. So, like we actually do have like completely different approaches to things a lot of the time. Like we like barely use the same programs anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of like, I'm kind of coming around to some of the programs you use.
Yeah.
Because I need to get things done faster, is the main thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then you might, hopefully, I still like I haven't shown everyone completely what I've done in like full depth yet. It's something I've been experimenting with. So hopefully we'll get it approved, and hopefully people will like the stuff that I've done.
I mean, I'm excited because like that's one of the things that we haven't. That's actually one of the things that we haven't changed since the first Mega Splat terrain.
I mean, we've changed the textures up a bunch. Like the grass got reduced in contrast. The brown dirt got changed.
Yeah, I think
some
you
of the
added
rock
a
textures.
couple.
Yeah, I did some textures, but they weren't that great textures.
And we don't have a lot of texture diversity in general. I think that like it will tie into like a kind of biome sort of thing later as we kind of expand the diversity of the overworld. I'm sure we'll have a lot of different textures for the terrain. We're talking about really specific art things. I just realized. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty specific, but I think people can imagine that like basically we have like a picture of like grass that can tile both ways or all four directions, so that if you stick it next to each other, it's seamless. And we only had like 8 or 9 or so textures before, so now I'm increasing the diversity of like different rock textures, different grass textures, different like dirt textures, different path textures, pebbles, all sorts of things to make it so that when we dress up the world, we can just make things a bit more interesting to look at. I think before, when you saw the environment, and this is kind of the analysis takeaway I was trying to get with comparison between the two images that I was looking at from the new stuff and the old stuff, is that the old stuff, you can tell that it's rock, you can tell that it's grass or dirt and that it's this color, but it's not really interesting. It doesn't really tell you anything about the environment or the kind of rock it is. It's just kind of, okay, that's rock, that's dirt, that's grass. With the new system, hopefully you'll feel like you can, that there's a bit more shape to the world, even if it's a bit artificial because it's a texture. Yeah. And I think that'll just make your experience traveling a bit more interesting than, particularly if you're going across a vast space that maybe isn't completely, packed and dense with content.
And I think like people who are excited about performance should be excited to know that it will help with performance as well, because originally we kind of were very liberal with how much like little debris we put everywhere, and we put like little stones and stone paths and bricks and stuff, and just over time all of those things start adding up and start affecting performance. So hopefully with some more interesting ground textures, and we did that because our ground textures were kind of not that interesting, and it was kind of a quick fix because it took a lot longer to make a new texture than it did to just slap some
some
stones
rocks.
and rocks on the ground. It'll be more performant and look more diverse, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think if this thing comes across, I'll post spoilers for supporters if we approve the changes, because I think people will be interested to see what the changes are. But so that's kind of like the terrain side of things. But in terms of the art of A Township Tale, and like on a more larger, less technical scale, I guess the game it's a pretty cartoony fantasy game. Like it's kind of like fairly flat colors, but it's pretty diverse in its genres. Like, the caves are very dark, the forest is foggy, the town is kind of like light and fairly calm besides a few spriggles here and there. And I think you can expect that we're gonna explore more kind of themes and like moods and things like that as we go through biomes. You can see that a little bit in the forest and all those the biomes that it has. It doesn't scratch the surface of what we want to do with biomes. It's kind of like the very first thing. But hopefully people can...
Yeah, you have a lot of like biome concepts that have been kind of sitting around for a while.
Yeah.
We haven't ever like gotten a chance to implement.
Yes, some of them we've kind of implemented, but for the most part, we're still kind of at this point where, from a game design perspective, the challenge is with the reasons why this biome exists and the challenge it presents. I think, you know, like whenever I'm producing art, I always feel kind of like taken aback because there's the part of me that knows that we're gonna have to implement this, and I need to know which kind of gameplay systems or gameplay loop it needs to be a part of.
Right.
So like if I add this, you know, this cool thing like, or this kind of like this pit or these brambles, you know, what are you gonna get out of it? Like, why would you travel through them? And already with the forest, there's no reason to travel through the brambles. People have probably figured that out, but there will be. And that was kind of just an experiment in forest obstacles. But that's kind of the challenge, I guess, with coming up with diverse biomes that need to have gameplay functionality. And so that's why things maybe feel like they take a bit longer, is because they need to fit somewhere.
And you want to give players like a really good reason to go there as well.
Yeah.
Like, because the town is very safe and comfy, but yeah, we want to like make sure that people are exploring and finding new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me check the time real quick before we keep going.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now we still got like 10 minutes at least.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too much to like the game design of it again, but the as we get more biomes, you're probably gonna have to have it's gonna be damn near impossible for you to travel through this biome unless you're properly equipped. Kind of like how trying to travel through the caves without a light is really tough. There's gonna be some other kind of item or some kind of other requirements you'll need to travel through a different biome. I'll leave it at that for now because I don't want to talk about game design. But if you were curious as to what we're like, where our head is at with the future of biomes and diverse environments and new gear and equipment that you might need to have, that's kind of where we're going to go, where it's going to be a pretty hard cutoff for whether or not you can go through or not. But yeah, what do you think about the... what are your thoughts on the characters of A Township Tale, Serena?
Are you talking specifically about the people or the creatures?
Let's start with the people.
The people. Yeah, I mean, they've been through a lot. Like, if you guys remember the first character from the PAX build, they were a big white sphere that as a head, and they had like a colored bandana across their face. But yeah, they have evolved into being the way they are now, and I'm really happy with them. Like, overall, I think the cosmetic system is something that, like, I think is one of the coolest things out of like any game. Like, I feel like we like allow a lot of freedom for people, and I can't think of another game that lets you have that many like layers of items and have it all like free to be colored. And yeah, like I'm really happy with how that turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the like there's a lot of stylistic choices we made with the characters that kind of still play a part with keeping the identity of the game, you know, despite the layering of cosmetics and stuff like that. It's all very much on like purpose and by design. Like the belt is a constant that you have. The sash is a constant. The nose is a constant. The like
the no legs.
Yeah, I guess the no legs. Yeah,
yeah.
And I think, you know, I mean, if people have tried to draw a township character, they kind of know that those are like the three things they need to do.
Iconic.
Yeah.
I think that's good, and they're not iconic in a bad way. That it's like, oh, I don't want to name drop anything. It's it's not like they're I think they're like you can draw like an OC, right? Like an original character, and you just give it those features and people know immediately that it's a Township character.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a really cool thing that we have going. Whereas a lot of other things, like you won't know what
Yeah, I guess
you are.
yeah, for things that share like an art style, it can be it can be difficult to identify like its origin. Um, but with the certain, I think the belt and the sash do it the most. You can tell that where the game
And
is
then
from
like
just
to
from
be
that.
honest, like
Yeah.
that those things. And then like obviously the nose is a big one. And I think even the face shape, even though like we might, have face shapes in the future, I don't know. But I think that is another
Yeah.
iconic
Yeah, I think
one.
the general composition of the face, I think, will stay true enough that people will, even with face shapes, will be able to tell. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um,
What's your like inspiration behind the character? Like when you started drawing the Township characters, like
I,
why?
I think I just wanted to capture like a kind of like a fun sense of light, you know, uh, exploration type of adventure game where it's nothing too gritty or too hardcore looking. I mean, the game can be hardcore. Like I like games that have pretty extreme features, but the from a style perspective, it should look like a kind of a peaceful place, like a lot of paintings or drawings that you might see of like fields and things like that in medieval fantasy travelers that are just having like a good time. Um,
Jovial.
but then kind of like being able to, and then seeing that character style in all these different environments would kind of drove me to think of like, oh, I think seeing this character go through these like going through caves or going through dungeons is kind of a cool idea, and you can see their, I could map out their journey, I guess, like their life journey throughout the world. And I think like I was definitely trying to nail down the idea of some certain iconic features that the characters might have, like the size of the eyes, the general eyebrow and hair compositions, the like the sash and the belt. Just for like iconic features, it's kind of like how you identify any characters from other franchises.
Yeah.
Like Mario has the overalls and his hat and the M on his hat. It's got a big nose and a mustache. People kind of know how to draw Mario enough that you could recognize Mario even if it was poorly drawn. Like if you draw the mustache upside down, people will still know who Mario is.
Yeah.
Um, Like same thing with like I think Master Chief from Halo is really easy
I
to
was thinking like Sonic
draw.
as well.
Sonic, yeah, Sonic's really easy to draw.
I was just remembering all the bad Sonics
Yeah, all the.
that I had to endure you drawing for years. I hope you kept some. It was hilarious.
Some of those are great. I think they're around somewhere. Maybe I'll share them with some people on the community. But yeah, just
Boramy and I
making
used
it
to like
iconic.
go on these like kind of drawing tangents sometimes. Like we did drawing exercises as well.
Yeah.
When we were back in the office, obviously it's never gonna be the same.
I know. I mean, we could still do it. We did it. We kind of did it
Yeah,
serially the
yeah.
other day.
Yeah, we did it in Discord.
Yeah.
Which was really good. Like, it's really good to stretch those muscles every now and then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think, like, I like the idea that everyone on the art team feels pretty comfortable with, trying to draw or at least like portray the style of A Township Tale,
yeah,
or at least kind of work on that skill, because I think it's just a fun piece of involvement with the with that aspect of the game.
I think it was fun for me to like take an approach to sort of like try and embody your art style and like fulfill your vision. In the beginning of working at Alta, it was something I had to like really familiarize myself with, and I love just like asking you like
Concept something
can
or
you just paint or like getting concepts and be like, just show me how you would paint this texture or something, and then just like like getting to like emulate that was really, really cool. I love like copying people's art style.
Yeah,
It's fun.
I look forward to doing more art stuff. Like I think something we don't do enough is probably like some people might have seen the concept art that we have. There's not a ton of concept art that we actually have, not as much as I would like. So I think as we get more artists and as I do less of the 3D stuff, maybe I can and work more on like the bigger picture things. I can kind of just draw stuff and paint things and step in for 3D where I need to. Because I'd like for us to have a huge library of concept art that just would feel like an amazing art book or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's definitely the direction that you're sort of going in anyway. And like when some of the other artists get a chance to work on like some of the overworld, so
Yeah,
some of the environment, I think that will definitely be like really, really helpful.
yeah. All right. You want to describe a bit what your role as a technical artist means?
Sure. Yeah, at the moment it is really, as Boramy mentioned earlier, I'm working on optimization with Victor, so a lot of it is optimization based at the moment. Um, Victor and I would sort of identify any potential problems, so there would be a lot of testing and debugging. Um, Things like frame rate and other performance
Yeah, like
based.
essentially all the number stuff, I guess, like draw calls, frame rate,
Yeah, yeah.
like textures. Like sometimes when we're in a rush to do things, uh, like we kind of just create new versions of stuff that doesn't need to be a new version necessarily.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And like just kind of taking what already exists in the game and sort of making it so that it's as cheap as possible without kind of sacrificing the artistic integrity
yeah,
of whatever it is. Um, and so yeah, it's also just like coming up with like tools like and working with Victor on that as well because he's a programmer, so getting um like he and I are like just work really tightly trying to like design tools to help other artists as well like keep their things optimized. So, you know, ways of like putting textures together, different materials, combining them into one material, um, or like yeah, like the landmarks system where uh, you know we can start rendering like really far away unloaded chunk objects. Um,
yeah.
yeah, there's like yeah, just a lot of tools, a lot of optimizing.
All right, cool. Thanks for that. All right, so we'll take a quick
Yeah.
break and then we'll go through and answer some questions. I had a look. There's not that many, so we should be able to get through it fairly decently. But we'll see you in just a second. All right, welcome back to Altacast 17 for the Q&A section, um, where we answer some of the questions that people have and have had. Okay, let's start with a fun one to begin with. Let's see. Oh man, there's actually quite a lot of questions. Okay, some of them are very specific about certain things, so I have to kind of see them through. Some of them
I
look
mean,
like they're. Sorry?
you can answer anything you want. Like, you don't have to involve me.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. Any plans to add gardening and or growing your own plants?
um, yeah, like, actually, another thing that I have done in the past to do with technical art is, like, design the woodcutting system. So Joel and I work together on, like, things like that. Um, And after that, I had like really briefly designed like a
Oh, yeah, I
farming
remember that.
system.
Yeah.
And fun fact, if people, some people might already know this, but there are different assets that exist in the project that are like a baby carrot, medium carrot, and a large carrot, and there's like the potato sapling and like the medium stage, and then the
Yeah.
fully grown stage. So there were plans to do that.
Yeah, I mean, so like the some of the stage plans that you made are implemented.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, like you can grow potatoes and stuff since the forest update.
See, I
mean-
haven't played the forest. I did not know this. Okay, that's I'm the worst.
Yeah, so you can, I think potatoes, eggplants, apple trees, and
Wow.
tomato trees can be grown, as well as all the woodcut tree types.
Yeah. So is the question like an old question, or?
It's a bit of an old question, but I think, but it's not your full design that we've implemented. Like we have a pretty basic version of growing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So like you plant a seed and it just grows.
Yeah, it just grows over time at the moment.
Yeah.
But so some of what Serena designed was kind of like the watering process, like the kind of like the concept of fertilizers and like tilling the ground and things like that.
And I had
which will
done so
have a
much.
role.
I like learned like all of the like growth cycles of all these plants and like when they're planted for optimal harvest and like
Yeah.
and like I did a lot of like Stardew Valley research as well.
Yeah.
I mean I just play at Stardew. But, yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely more plans for farming beyond what we already have, and it's going to involve watering cans, like this question asks. Yeah. So yeah, there's kind of like a new level of complexity, and again, that sort of thing will come once we have more reasons for you to have different foods.
But also, I also have assets that are like, all the different plants have different flowers.
Yeah.
And depending on like when they're flowering as well, it gives an indication of when they're ready to harvest. Like that was in the works as well.
Yeah.
But I'd love to have just like, I mean, like personally, just like flowers that you can grow for.
Yeah, or just for fun, just for cosmetic reasons.
Yeah,
that'd
or
be cool.
like you can use different flowers for like different dyes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just like ways for. I'd love to have like something that you can like put on like a little box that you can like put on your windowsill and just grow flowers.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's so like more growing. Like we can include more growing and stuff like that when housing is a thing.
Yeah.
So speaking of housing, there's a question here about housing, I believe. I think I'll have to answer this one because it's about whether or not you can automatically pay for your plot for your house rent from your bank without necessarily having to go to the plot. Yeah, like pretty much like you can take money out of your ATM rather than out of the land plot.
Okay.
It's very possible. We don't have a solid idea of that because it's kind of like a user experience side of things. But yeah, having banked coins automatically go to rent would be nice because I mean, especially because I think the main purpose of coins will be for housing in the game. It's kind of going to be where we like really drive an economy is from the housing plot. So making the ATM the one stop for you might be good enough because that's kind of what you need to do. And then trade deck stuff can stay as trade deck things. But yeah, like in general, the economy of A Township Tale. There's another question here about gold coins, about us changing its value and stuff like that. All of it is probably gonna get changed a bunch once the housing stuff is out, which is still gonna be further away. But yeah,
I'm really excited to see the user. I just want to see like the economy like emerge and become like fully.
Yeah.
With these like fully formed with these like gold coins.
Yeah, like
I'm pretty certain.
Because you know how people can like use gold ingots to get more coins.
Yeah.
People have so many coins because of that, but I wonder if we can have the like if there's a way to balance the housing economy so much that like even that is a tough thing to ask you to do. For you to farm coins is difficult.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't know. Before we know, we'll have like an entire like investment scheme type of thing you can do to increase your gold coin income based off of everyone else's like housing tax that they pay or something like that. I think it'd be interesting if like all the money that you spend on town stuff that we technically take as the game plays a role in like a different system, kind of like your town value or something like that.
Yeah, the gods will make it like rain or something.
Yeah, like if you have a thriving economy, you get a more bountiful harvest.
Yeah. Plague free.
Okay, let me find another one. Will the game have seasons, Serena? It would be cool to see snow on the map.
Yeah, so that was another thing that like I wanted to tie into farming as well, was seasons. And I think like I mean I really want it. Like snow is going to be really interesting though, because it's one of those things that obviously is going to cost us in performance, and it's going to be interesting to see how we can kind of come up with a way of doing that like cheaply.
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact, you had the very first version of the trees we had in the game had seasons.
Yeah, it did.
Do you remember?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so
the foliage
leaves
thing.
over time would turn orange, and then they would sort of wilt until there were no leaves left on the tree. And it happened really quickly, obviously, because you were like showing off the...
Yeah, we were just showing off. I mean, this thing was just a shader with like kind of a global time concept. So it wasn't like there was nothing that said like, now it's time for fall, so kick into fall. Like,
yeah, and it was like only on that one tree.
Yeah, only on the tree. So like the rest of the grass and all that stuff stayed. But yeah, the technical challenge that we'll have to deal with is how do we change like all of our grass textures to like start to brown out, and how do we get like how are we planning to have snow build up on things? Already
and
for
I'd love to have rain as well. Like
yeah,
it'd be really really cool.
Yeah, rain I think is harder to do than like so. There's two kind of options there. One is it's like we have a global weather concept, which is super cool, and then like when it snows in town and things like that. That's gonna be like the big technical challenge for weather. But if we, for whatever reason, we can't achieve that, there will still be areas that have snow and have rain and things like that, or have a chance for that. Things that are a bit more
like put it out, it'd be a huge task and huge update. It'll be like a forest long sort of feature.
Because it will definitely change the flow of resources throughout the game. Like we'd like things should be tied in with the weather concept, so that like certain creatures come out during this time, plants grow out, like your personal health conditions need to get impacted by the seasons and the weather.
Yeah.
So I mean it's exciting because there's it's in the introduction of new systems, which lets us make more content that is worthwhile for you to go and get. So yeah, I think some people who maybe are used to just having the one season might find it a bit tedious to have to deal with them, but I think it's where the crux of the game is heading, is dealing with the temperament of the world around you. Yeah.
And I think it's just like we really care about making a really like authentic experience.
Yeah.
That we're really true to sort of physics and we want to make even things like blacksmithing is a really authentic experience in our opinion. Like we want to make things as physical and immersive as possible.
Okay. Let me find another question from me to answer maybe. Okay. Thoughts on bad/back casting spells and their repercussions. So I think this is the idea that if you cast a spell incorrectly, that something might happen to you.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I always like failure mechanics in stuff because I think it makes it more interesting. And it makes you require more skill. Like I know some people, probably maybe more than some people, don't really like your nail, like losing materials and stuff like that when they're generic crafting. But I think it's an important, like, aside from the fact that we can improve our hit recognition on that to make it a bit less frustrating, I think having, the fact that you have to pay attention to how you're hammering is an important thing. And maybe, you found a tool and a way to put it together that makes it much easier for you. But the fact that you've discovered that, I think, is a fun enough part of the experience too, so that you kind of use different systems to try and overcome the like the potential limitations that you might have. So it's the same kind of deal with like the future of magic, I guess, is the fact that you will have a chance to fail what you're doing, and obviously the least that can happen is that nothing happens, but maybe we can have things go a bit haywire, particularly if you're trying to do complex
things.
Some
of the like stronger spells or whatever are like maybe like riskier, and there are repercussions if you
like there might be like a super strong spell that you can try and use, but if you don't have the maybe if you don't have the right equipment, it's even harder for you to use, but you can still do it if you're skillful enough. But otherwise, if you're planning to use the spell a lot, you have to have like the right equipment, so there's a bit of a balance between the two. We did talk, I think, in maybe the alchemy Altacast or something like that, I think, where making potions and stuff like that will most likely have downsides, so you're kind of trading things in and out, like maybe you get extra damage output, but maybe you take more damage as well, that sort of thing. And then the balance between like the buff and the debuff could depend on how skillful you made the concoction. But yeah, and I think like right now with blacksmithing, we're a bit too safe. I think like you just hammer until you're done, and there's nothing wrong with you continue to hammer or how you hammered. You just kind of go through it, which makes it a bit more chore-like.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah.
I think people who say that they don't like negative effects are forgetting that, like, when things don't have negative effects, it really does feel like a chore. Like, it just becomes a really automatic process.
Yeah.
And there's no, it's not a game if you can't fail.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think spells will definitely have it, because I think it just lets us do some wackier stuff. All right. Okay. When will we get free cosmetics again, Serena?
Oh, yeah, we had that one. I think it was for supporters, though. Was it? Oh.
No, it was for everyone.
Or was it free for everyone?
Yeah, free for
okay,
everyone.
yeah. Whenever the cosmetics team decide to do that. Yeah, I don't know how long it's been since we've had that.
It's been a while. It's the only one we've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk to the guys and we'll see.
Like we just did it for an experiment mainly, I think, when we did do it. So it's not going to be that common of a thing.
Yeah.
What may otherwise happen is we might have, kind of these community challenges where you might earn cosmetics or talents from it. But there's no real regular schedule for free cosmetics, so there's no timeline on when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously it's like, we might have something. Have we ever done something that's free for supporters?
No.
But
not for cosmetics, I don't think. No.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be cool to try that first. We're obviously like trying a bunch of different things. Like we don't really have any kind of set schedule for cosmetics or anything. So like we're still trying new things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, there's not the cosmetic questions, but I'll ask that a bit later. Here's a question that is pretty gruesome. I think this one came before the forest, but they're asking if we'll ever have to kind of skin the mobs in the forest, like Red Dead Redemption 2. And they're simplified animations, but you actually do them, then you get the hide, and if you mess it up, it breaks the hide. There's never going to be anything as visceral as what what is implied in Red Dead Redemption. We like the game's not that violent.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're like a very sort of PG game, so we don't have any, like we don't have blood or
Yeah.
so it's gonna be kind of that'd
Yeah.
be weird to
for
like
for like a like I did think about this a lot, because playing through different games and seeing their experience, like there might be some kind of different interaction that you can do after a mob goes away, that you can get stuff from them, but it's never gonna feel like you're like breaking apart this cadaver, I think. Probably not. Like,
I don't have a problem with sort of like, you shoot a spriggle and some drumsticks pop out of it. Like, I think that's an authentic enough experience for me personally.
Like, I think this kind of goes back to like the failure mechanic of like if you mess up the process, then you could lose the material. I think.
Or I always talked about like maybe if you shot a spriggle with a bow and arrow, it gave you a better output than say hitting it with a hammer, because obviously hitting it with a hammer is just going to damage the entire thing.
Yeah.
But if you were really precise and careful, then it would reward you.
Yeah, I think like the only context I've thought about this really is like with bosses and the idea of you having to collect stuff from the boss afterwards.
Right.
And then you have to kind of lug it all back, and it's this a bit of an event. It's like the retrieval process.
You get lots of people to like help carry.
Yeah, it's kind of like I imagine in my head that you have like in a community you have the raiding party, which is the one that goes and defeats the boss. But then you have like the townspeople, like the people who don't do the fighting. They come afterwards and they do like the collection. Because I was trying to think of like like if someone doesn't really enjoy fighting or enjoy like the adrenaline and adventure, how can they partake a bit in some of the exploration and the traveling section of the game? And maybe like the idea of bringing stuff back is pretty cool. Like
if you're going with other people.
Yeah, I imagine the dynamic of like having people like your warriors defending like this convoy to take the stuff back to town. Super complex stuff that like adds like another 5 years of the game development, but that's how far away the idea of like I guess harvesting of like having a convoy, at least that's how far away that is.
We'll need a boss before
we need a boss
before boss harvesting.
Yes. But we need the boss to drop something important. So we need something for that to go into, which is kind of the hole we're trying to fill. Okay, any plans for 1 week cosmetics rotations? It feels too long to wait.
It's something that we've talked about. We're kind of in a bit of a groove at the moment, but we've talked about mixing it up a little, like experimenting also with different sort of types of rotations. So at the moment we are doing 2 outfits and 4 individual items or bundles, and that's just been the layout every 2 weeks. But we have talked about rotating more frequently and re-rotating more often. I don't know if we'll do it. It's just something we've talked very, very briefly about.
Yeah, I think the main thing is like the pressure to output cosmetics increases like twice as much. So
we talked about like maybe the first rotation has new things, but like the rotation every 2 weeks still has new things, but maybe the second rotation has a lot of repeats or something like that. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Maybe we'll be able to sustain, like in the future, maybe we'll be able to sustain having new stuff every 1 week if we expand the team enough. But at the moment, I don't think. Because
at the moment I think we're kind of interested in transitioning some of the artists to be able to do other art rather than just cosmetics.
Yeah.
No immediate plans for 1 week cosmetic rotations.
At least new stuff, that is.
Yeah, at least for new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's some questions that I'm gonna rapid answer just because they're up there, but they only need fairly short answers.
Yep.
It's a bunch of like when questions. When can we mute other players? Probably once we have a better interface for selecting meta stuff. Like we don't like pointers, like kind of like laser pointers, like how a lot of games have for stuff. So we need to, maybe we'll be able to allocate some time to just doing that sort of thing. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Saul might be interested in looking at that if he can. If we can find a nice way to do it. Flycam for server owners and moderators when. We'll do it once Joel gets more time to work on the launcher so that he can add the startup ability for us so that you can join a server as a Flycam, and so that we can. And I think Timo needs to do some permission stuff on servers, but they're too busy to do that right now. Will Lucy return with the forest update or someday? Nope. Lucy will never return.
Lucy's dead. Stop asking her. Let her rest.
Will the start of the game change a lot after the forest update? I think the answer to that is and was yes. With the weight and stack limits, I think that changed up things a bunch. Probably not super drastically, because you can still do most things without worrying about those two things, but it does make mass hoarding less of a thing. And the last one I'll answer is when will climbing from the previous server be implemented, and when will we get new content for previous server to test? Climbing for the previous server, there's some tough technicalities we need to kind of deal with. We need to get completely revisited to work with some of the locomotion changes that happen when we try to implement the platforms, which are still not perfect if I recall. So probably sometime after that. New content for a previous server to test when we have time. Right now we're pretty strapped working on stuff that we don't have time to create a kind of a fun experience like the previous server. So there's no timeline on those two things. Kind of leads into a question asking if we'll ever be able to jump. Possibly. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a strange question because obviously you can get over things by teleporting them.
Yeah.
By teleporting over them, but
yeah,
I guess smooth
yeah.
jump.
Yeah, we have to disable teleporting for the climbing server, so it's a bit tough to balance. Like, I mean, because you use smooth locomotion, right? But you're probably the least comfortable person.
Yeah, I still do, but I need to have the black circle.
Yeah, the tunnel
around
vision thing. Yeah,
all the time. I'm like the one that you should test any motion sickness things on.
Yeah.
I get motion sickness.
I mean, I think Sebastian and Tiarna are not completely used to it either. But yeah, maybe they're too not used to it to ask them to do some of the stuff. But yeah, like jumping, balancing the game for both smooth and teleportation is really tough. But we kind of have to have teleportation for people who just cannot be in VR that long. So, we'll kind of keep watch of how things are going. Let's see if they evolve anymore. Okay, we'll finish up soon because we've got stuff to do and then we're almost out of time. I had a question for you earlier. Where is it? Oh wait, no. I guess no. This is a question for I guess kind of both of us and slightly more me. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Are you planning to change the cave generation to be more similar to the forest with nodes, divergent pathways, and variable resource availability?
I want that. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
Okay, so
And like obviously like biome diversity as well. Like I mean we do have the crystal caves, but I just from a technical perspective, like having worked on any cave generating design sort of things, it was not sort of fun to use that system, and so I hope that I don't see like why they need to be separate concepts personally.
yeah. Yeah, I think, there's a bit to dread with going back to that system, to reworking that system that I think Joel feels a little bit.
Yeah.
And he knows that it's
It
going to
was
take him a
fun
while
at
to do as
first.
well. Even though we kind of have a good concept with how the forest works, to get it working in as three-dimensional a way as the caves might be, it's a bit tough. But what's your ideal cave experience for you? Like, if no limits to your imagination, what's it like?
As a player or as a design or as like
What kind of like, if you had to describe like the game experience of it? So for if you were to describe what a player would do in this amazing cave that you've imagined up.
Definitely biome diversity I would have. I think dungeons would be really cool. I don't know if you're planning to tie that into the cave system or have like separate dungeon related things. Obviously like boss arenas, honestly like really similar to the forest, like structures,
Yeah.
big encounters, small encounters, um yeah, like resources scattered everywhere. But I personally kind of like there's one way down every level. I like that system. But yeah, maybe some more like diversity within the layer itself, like more of those like tunnels that you have to get through, or
Yeah.
and also just yeah, maybe some like not just wooden structures. I'd love to have like a mine cart personally.
Yeah. Yeah, minecarts would be cool. I think like
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Joel's gonna hate me talking about cave stuff because he knows how much work I add when I talk
Yeah.
about it. But I think right now with the way the layers kind of like stack down, it's a very nice and clean system, but it's maybe a bit too rigid, and maybe the cleanliness that it provides is not really worth the like the experience of it.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have now obviously in retrospect at the time that we made it, it was a nice system, but having a bit more of a nebulous kind of system where you have
Yeah.
like lots of cells and conjoining paths in multiple ways down, having to watch your step, larger caves where you can really see something across like a large distance that's maybe way far down, and you can envision like the spatial scale of things around you.
I would love to see like also diversity in just the height of the layers. Like maybe
Yeah.
you can get some sort of vantage point and see this giant like
Yeah, like this whole
encounter below, and
yeah
yeah, that would be really cool.
yeah kind of giving it a bit more of a organic feel on like a three-dimensional level as opposed to the layers.
Yeah.
I would love so if we're planning to change that, I would very much like to, but I think we're gonna let the forest mature a bit, work a bit more content on that, and then probably maybe after housing is done, I'd like to see us retouch grounds on cave generation, and maybe by that point we have the team's a bit bigger, and we can kind of do two slightly larger things in parallel. Because I know there's still more, a lot more content-ish things that we want to do after housing. So I think that about wraps it up. There's other questions on here, but I don't want to end on like a slightly more meta question. I feel like the cave one's a good question to end on. All right, thanks a lot for joining me, Serena.
No worry me.
Yep. First Altacast back since the forest released. I let Joel kind of work on his stuff today. I didn't want to bother him. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.